Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Spirit-Centered Business. I'm Bralynn Newby, your host, and I am excited to introduce a brand new guest, new to me, new to my audience, and welcome to Susan's audience, if I'm new to you. So this is Susan Fleming, and we're going to get to her story in just a minute. I just have a housekeeping issue. I wanted to remind you that Donna Nieper and I are doing the fusion coaching, which means fusion of spirit coaching, spiritual coaching, and business coaching together. And we have a holiday special. And holiday, I say holiday, not because I don't want to say Christmas, because I say Christmas all day long. But I just wanted to include all of the holidays because it ran from Thanksgiving through New Year's. So that's all that means. So that is on spiritcenteredbusiness.com/fusion, or you can just go to the coaching page and find all of the coaching over there. And I think that is it for the announcements. Susan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Well, I'm excited. I'm always excited when I get a brand new person because the whole audience gets to meet you at the same time I meet you. So when I looked up your stuff, I'm like, ooh, this sounds exciting. So why don't you just tell the story of how your spiritual journey, how you're stepping into what you're doing now?
Yeah. So back in 2019, the Lord started talking to me about rest. And I know for a lot of, business leaders, that's kind of a 4-letter word. We don't talk about it.
Rest. Unfortunately, you're right.
Yeah. It's thought of in terms of just physical rest. And I was just at a place of such burnout, just go, do, be everywhere for everybody. And you have the business, and I'm married, and I have kids, and all the things, right, that everybody
Right.
does. And you just tell yourself, well, that's just life. That's just how it goes. You just have to, get through, do all the things. And the Lord started really showing me that you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to just get through. There's so much more. And so at that point, I'm actually a licensed therapist. And so I was in private practice still. And he kind of redirected me to the world of online coaching and what that is. And I had no idea. I had no idea what that even was.
Okay. So you're new to online work as well. So that's exciting. Cool.
Yeah. So I started that in 2019. And it was in January of 2020. He provided for me to close my practice. And so I was like in that transition period of learning to work from home and see clients that way. And then everything shut down.
Yeah.
Right. It was just a couple months before everything shut down. So I know a lot of people, it was a rough time, but for me, it was God's timing that everything happened the way it did. And I'm just really, really grateful for how he led me into that season of rest. At the time though, it was really difficult. It was, it was really hard because there's like I said,
learning curve. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Such a learning curve. And, just like I said, at that point of burning out, I had been going for so long and just doing and doing and doing. And he said, Susan, there's a better way to do business. There's a better way to live your life. And it's about partnership with me, which was totally different to me, which may be surprising. I grew up in church. But for me, it was always more about the like doing things for God instead of with God.
Yes.
And that's a big difference. The for and the with, big difference.
Huge.
So Yeah. So he started teaching me about rest, about partnership, co-creating, co-laboring, how you do that, what that looks like. And that just, yeah, that changed my life.
Very cool. So had you been pressing into the heavenly realm before that, as far as like doing courts of heaven or, some people call them ascensions. I don't necessarily, but some people do, but activations. No, you hadn't.
No,
Okay.
I had no grid.
Wow. Okay. So church kid
Yep.
coming into the deeper things of God in
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it. Okay. So what happened next?
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that he brought it to me through business, right? Because doesn't
Mhm.
he comes to us in the way that he knows. We'll
Right.
receive it. And that was what I thought I needed to be doing. I was all about performing, earning, striving, doing all the things.
Right.
So he showed me in the way that he knew I would get it, like you don't have to keep performing, you don't have to keep striving. And yeah, so I grew up actually Southern Baptist. So there
Mm.
wasn't we didn't really there wasn't talk of Holy Spirit or giftings, or like I had no grid for any of that. The prophetic, any of that kind of stuff.
Wow.
That was all new. That was all new. And so just within the last couple years, he has just uh, exploded.
I was gonna say blew it up, right? Awesome.
Absolutely. Just blew up. It's like everything I thought I knew. No, I had no idea.
Oh.
Mm,
So, okay, so you're starting your online business. So what happened as far as your business in 2020? Because I know what happened to mine.
yeah. Well, I was in that kind of transitioning time between counseling and coaching, and do I keep, seeing counseling clients, and what does that look like? And what exactly is coaching, and how is that different, and how do I do that? And so it was really a year for me of just exploring
Hmm.
and learning, not just all the things of God that he was showing me, but then also all the things of business and being now online versus in a brick and mortar, and how you
Hmm.
do that differently. And so it was just, yeah.
Okay, cool.
2020 was just fun, exciting, um, discovery, exploration, all good things.
So did you have people around you who could help you with the spiritual aspects of that exploration?
Yes, yes. I was able to connect with someone who she was just different. I didn't know what it was. I didn't have language for it, but I was like, there's something here.
I get that all the time. I totally understand that. People say, I just felt like I needed to coach with you because you're
Yeah,
different. I get it.
yeah, yeah. So
Awesome.
that's kind of how it went. And I just I didn't have language for it, but I
Mhm.
said I could see she had a relationship with God that
Mm.
I just didn't. Again, I had no grid, but I
Wow.
knew there was something to it. So I was like, will you please please
Yeah.
work with me, mentor
Wow.
me, all the things. And yeah, she did. And we're still good friends now. And so I still have that person that I can go and be like, okay, this happened. And you know, I saw this thing in my room. Like, what do I do with it? What do I do with that? When I started getting into the prophetic and having visions and seeing things and hearing things and that sort of thing,
Mhm.
she was able to help walk me through, what does that look like? What is all that stuff?
Wow. That is
Yeah.
so cool and so important to have someone that you can kind of lean on and touch base with as you're learning all of these things. A lot of times people come to me after they've had some experiences and they just don't know where to put it. I don't have a
Hmm.
pocket for this. How do I hold it? Right. And
Yeah.
and it feels important. So it feels like you're supposed to hold it, but it's like, I don't know how.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that you had someone to come alongside you. And then did you have someone helping you learn the online part of business as well?
I did.
Okay,
The
great.
Lord connected me with a wonderful kingdom business coach, and I was working with her at that same time. And so there was a lot
Right.
of overlap, even with her.
Mhm.
I would be like, again, just new things, and she would say, she would help me with that, explain, or how does that relate to your business, or is that something different, and just helping with the discernment of what to do with all the pieces to make the puzzle fit together.
Brilliant. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 2020 was, I had started in 2019 taking clients up into the heavenly realms and, partnering with heaven on a level of just like, what is the strategy, or who are my advisors, or, just how do I work with heaven in 2019. So when I started, then, so that was kind of like my on ramp. And then, so by 2020, I had developed some momentum and skill around that. So I totally understand what you mean about that. Not only online is that is a mindset shift, but partnering with heaven is a total paradigm shift of how we're going to do business now, from that place of rest and from a place of I can rely on him instead of I have to handle everything. And it sounds like you're a girl after my own heart, like a go-getter. And I'm like, if something needs to get done, I need to do it and everything. So like, I love that. So 2020 was actually amazing for me. My business tripled.
Wow.
So yeah, because of just working with heaven and,
Yeah.
just having that partnership. So I want to hear more though about your story moving
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like you said, it's such a different, I don't even know the word, would be like it's a completely different paradigm of business with and without God, right? Because even at the time when, like, if I had talked to you in, say, 2018, I would have said, yes, absolutely, God is in my business, right? I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know that he really wasn't, that there was a different way to partner with him in that. And that's what, the biggest thing that, well, maybe not the biggest, but one of the bigger elements that I help my clients with is that paradigm shift, because I
Yeah.
find there's so many business owners who they don't connect with heaven for that strategy, and they
Right.
don't see, um that business is spiritual, and work is a blessing, and those things go together, and we don't have to compartmentalize all the things, right? That was definitely something that I struggled with, is there's sacred and there's secular, and you don't mix
Mm.
those. And he's
That's
like,
so funny you mentioned that. I'm so glad you did. Yeah, that was a big thing when I first started Spirit Center Business in 2014, was it's
yeah,
got to be one. It's like we have a
yeah,
destiny, right?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
brilliant. Okay.
yeah,
So how are well, you said you're married. So how is your husband with this shift, and the people that are close to you around? Tell me about the growth, your spiritual growth, and your shifting with that dynamic of like,
yeah. It's changed every relationship that I have.
yeah.
I mean, absolutely, right? Like, how do you encounter God and not be changed?
Right.
It's just it's been, and again, they don't have the articulation for it either. Now they're the ones like, there's just something different about you.
Yeah.
And they see the differences in me, and maybe don't connect yet with who it is, or what it is, or what the things are, what's going on. But it's just changed the way I do everything, because it's changed who I am as a person,
Mm. Wow,
and
so
that's who
good.
we operate out of.
Right.
It's our identity and who we are. And so often, I find with those in business, it's they've attached their identity to what they do, right? And
Yeah.
again, just that performing and striving. And so I would say that's been the biggest difference that people have noticed. People in my life have commented on that you're just so calm now. You're just so peaceful. There's just something like because I used to be so, I mean, I just had constant anxiety and I had to be in control of everything. And I was real, just critical of people and snippy and like get things done, and now I'm just like, we'll just flow and we'll just talk and we'll spend whatever time you want to, it's like there's no there's no other agenda. It's just relationship. And it just
I know we're just meeting for the first time and we're on Zoom, but you have such a kind and soft personality. I almost can't imagine you being snippy. Like if someone met me, they could always imagine me being snippy. I'm pretty direct and everything, and I try not to be. But anyway, that's amazing that your peeps around you notice that. Yeah. And so you're flowing different in business. Did you attract different clients?
Absolutely.
Oh, tell me about that.
Yeah. It's so interesting you asked that. I don't know that I've actually thought about that. Or had anybody ask me that.
Well, usually how we're being is what we attract, right? So if you're being different, that's the natural outflow. So yeah, cool. Tell me more.
So before I would say I was attracting more like trauma-based clients, people with a lot more going on, and they wanted help with business, but they didn't realize
the spiritual components, the inner game has to be cleaned up. Totally get that. Yep.
Yeah. So that's been a big difference. And at the time, I just attributed it to, well, I was a trauma therapist prior to coaching. So I think, at that point, I was just kind of using some of that same language. And I think, or at least I told myself that's why I was attracting those people. But it's, again, exactly what you just said is the same thing the Lord told me, right? It's like you're attracting that people see. It's like a mirror of who you are, and they see that in you, and they're, the wounding attracts others who are wounded, right? And so it's after I went through about 6 months really intense just healing with the Lord, letting him do all the things, and of course me participating in that and surrendering and having just the healing from childhood trauma that I'd been carrying all those years. And that changed me. That removed all the anxiety, all the depression. I had physical symptoms that stopped. Like it was night and day. And it was around that same time, and I hadn't made that connection until just now, that that was when my clientele started changing, and really seeing more business focused women who had done the work, who were actually coming to me for business.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
I do have one more question regarding the trauma therapy. Were these Christians or just in trauma in general?
That I was counseling?
Yeah.
Whoever.
Okay.
I didn't. Yeah.
And the reason that I was asking that, I'm just trying to get to, are you doing a satanic ritual abuse kind of trauma? People who are coming out of that? Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
Okay.
No, it was more just like childhood traumatic stuff, or
Okay.
things that I think we make so light of in society today. Oh, your parents got divorced. Everybody's parents are divorced. Like that kind of trauma stuff that they're coming in and not realizing how that's impacting their business now. How
Very
that
important.
impacts relationships, and everything's connected, right? Everything is connected.
Yes. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So now let's see, how have you shifted in how you're overlaying the spiritual with your business since you just started in 2019 and 2020 and during that transition. Now, since then, in these last 2 years, tell me more about how that comes out in your business.
Yeah. It's been such an acceleration from the Lord, just how he's imparted so much that people don't realize that I'm so new, I guess, spiritually. I don't know how you would phrase that, but it's because I was born again at such a young age, and so I've said my whole life I'm a Christian, and but kingdom is completely different.
Exactly.
And so that has been the education for the past 2 years. He's been teaching me about that. And so yeah, it's just I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, no, that's fine. I was just wondering about the overlay of how the spiritual side and partnering with heaven and understanding the revelation and walking it out, pulling it through the dimensions into your manifesting in your business. What does that look like?
Yeah. So how it's changed my business would be, really, before I was just focused on like the soul realm, and this is what we do, and this is, we're going to deal with emotions and your thoughts, and yes, you still deal with all that stuff otherwise, right? Even if you're dealing in the spirit. But I didn't, again, I didn't have a grid for spirit, soul, body, and this is how each one operates differently, and the different the 30, 60, 100 fold, and how we manifest things. And I had no I know I keep saying that, but I just had no idea of all those things. And so prior to the Lord teaching me these things, it was just dealing with people, trying to help clients through, these are techniques, these are tips, these are, you can do breathing, or this is what you can do for anxiety. And it was just more of that, just surface level stuff, right? Things
Okay.
that would help you to cope, but not actually fix anything. And that was my biggest frustration, really, in being a therapist, was like, because I was noticing in the years leading up to the Lord, making this change. That was my biggest frustration, was I'm not actually helping anybody. Like, that's how I felt. It was like, I can give you tools and come back and see me next week. Like, it was a never ending. We didn't get to the root of things. There wasn't actual healing. And yes, people made progress, but it was never resolved.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because that is a very trigger. I mean, for coaches who aren't seeing the results because of the way that we're trained as coaches. That paradigm doesn't exactly or at all include the spiritual stuff. Sometimes it includes soul stuff. You see a lot of coaching that talks about, managing your emotions, having emotional intelligence, giving, setting good boundaries. There's a lot of soul stuff. But when we add that super secret sauce of spiritual, now we can really do some good. So that's amazing. And I'm sure that your clients really appreciated that, and also saw acceleration in their lives because of your acceleration.
Yeah. Because
Brilliant.
it's a completely different dynamic when you bring Holy Spirit into it, and you ask for that heavenly strategy, and you allow Spirit to work and heal things, and just, acknowledge that I don't have to know what's wrong, right? Like, I don't have to pinpoint the problem. That's one of the things about therapy. It was always about, okay, let's dig into everything in your past and what's the exact thing that got us to this thing. And
Yeah.
that can be re-traumatizing, right?
It can be, yeah, especially if you're working outside of the protection of the Lord
Yeah.
and Holy Spirit, peace around the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So knowing that we can, one of the things I teach my clients that I think would be helpful for someone watching is that we don't have to know what it is. We don't have to know the thing. It's good if you do, right? To deal
Well,
with
yeah,
it. But
it depends on how the Lord shows you, because,
yeah,
but yeah, that's brilliant. Love
yeah.
that.
That we don't have to know because God knows.
Yeah.
And knowing that we're one with Him,
Mhm.
our spirits are connected, He knows all things, and the Spirit knows what needs to be done.
Mhm.
That's one of the things I started doing, that the Lord told me to do, that I teach my clients, is speaking to my soul, speaking to my body at night before I go to bed. I'll
Mhm.
set my intention. You're safe with Spirit. Spirit knows exactly what needs to be done. You can rest, and Spirit knows what needs to be done. And it's just that reassuring, of my soul, that it's safe. It's safe with Spirit, and it doesn't have to protect itself, and it doesn't have to keep up the boundaries or anything like that. And so, I've had so much healing just from those couple of sentences, just by setting my intention at night. And of course you can do it during the day too, but I do it before I go to sleep, and just,
Mhm.
allow Spirit to work while you're sleeping. Just rest. There's nothing else for you to do. And Spirit knows exactly what needs to be done. And
Oh, that's so good.
yeah, that's been so healing for so many people.
That's great. That's a really good gold nugget. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Is there specific language that you would want to share for someone who's like, well, how do I do that? Would you like to just share the language, the exact prayer, or the exact declaration that you make?
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
That's really, it's just that, because what we don't understand is that our soul thinks it has to protect itself, provide for itself, provide its own identity, right? And those are all things that the Lord does, right? And so knowing, okay, I'm not just what I see, but I am a spirit, I have a soul, and I'm in a body. And so for me, that opened me up to, okay, something's happening that I do have control over, right? Because I was very much in the mindset of, I was trying to control everything, but I felt like I had no control.
Mm.
And so what I've learned is that that was my soul just trying to protect itself, right? Trying to be in control all the time. Your soul's trying to protect itself. And
Mhm.
so the soul is the mind, will, and emotions. And your mind is trying to keep you safe, right? It's just trying to
Right.
keep you safe.
Right. Exactly.
So really, it's just that reassuring your soul that it is safe with Spirit,
Hmm.
right? The Spirit's not going to hurt it. It knows exactly what it needs to do. And the reassurance that there's nothing else that the soul needs to do. Because for me, it was all about performance.
Right.
There was always something to do. I
Mm.
didn't really know who I was, and I had put so much of my identity into what I did, right, in my career and that sort of thing, and that was so entangled. So for me, it was just the language of just saying, soul, you're safe with Spirit. There's nothing else you need to do. You can rest.
Brilliant.
It
Very
was
good, Susan. Thank you
just
so
that
much.
simple.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Before we end this first segment, and in the second segment, we're going to dive deeper into exactly what you teach and how you coach and things like that. But before we end this first segment, I just want to give a shout out for your workshop, the 2-2 challenge, right? Would you want to talk
Yes.
about what's in that and how people can register for that?
Yeah, so the 2-2 challenge is based on Habakkuk 2:2 to write the vision and make it plain. And so we're going to be doing brain-based vision mapping with Holy Spirit for 2023.
Love
So
it.
yeah, so
Oh my
you
gosh, I
can
knew you were a girl after my own.
you got to have both, right? You got to combine it.
Yeah.
There's no separation.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so they can go to your website, which is heaventoearthllc.com.
Mhm.
And I think my team will get that in the banner below, heaventoearthllc.com. And then we'll also have that in the show notes for any of you listening to the audio podcast. And I just want to remind you, you can always go to spiritcenteredbusiness.com. At the bottom of the podcast page, you can see all of the links to Spotify and iHeartRadio and Amazon Music and everywhere where this podcast is. So wherever you're listening to it, in the show notes, we will definitely have her website so that you can go ahead and register for that workshop. And that's December 7th. And if they happen to hear this afterward, what happens?
You can get the recording.
There you go. Awesome, Susan. Thank you so much. And to the audience, do remember, tune in next week for part 2 with this conversation. We're going to continue it here in a couple of moments, but for you, it will be next week. And until then, stay spirit-centered. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.